everybody, I've got a great video for you today because I am standing next to the new Ford Bronco Sport Heritage. This is the smallest Bronco in the lineup. It's a crossover SUV, and in this video we're going to find out how does its all-wheel drive system perform, and is it good enough to take you where you need to go. Now, I think a lot of people in the off-road and even in the street community think that you need the big full-on body-on-frame Bronco to tackle snow or slush or all the stuff you come across on a daily basis, but also rocks and holes and that kind of thing. But I think in this video, I'm going to prove to you that this Bronco Sport will do 99.99999% of whatever you would need to do, both in adverse conditions and off-road. It's pretty amazing. All right, everybody, welcome to the TFL slip test. So in this test, we get various wheels stuck on purpose in these rollers to see how the all-wheel drive system and the traction control system work to get us unstuck. It simulates snow and slush and ice and also some off-road terrain. And it's just a great controlled environment test to see how various all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive system performs. Now, this first test is called the front wheel slip test. So both front wheels stuck in the rollers, and then the rear wheels are going to have to engage to push us off to get unstuck. So we're starting out in normal mode. We have a number of off-road modes, or GOAT modes. It stands out for goes over any terrain, but we're going to run it in normal mode like you or your mom or your best friend might if they were just getting in the car for the first time in a snowy day. So front wheels are stuck, into neutral, we're settled, into drive, off the brake. So you can see that rear axle was ready to go, pulled us off, no drama, no spinning before the rear axle engaged. So that was a great result. On to the next one. All right, next up, the diagonal slip test. So the left front and the right rear stuck in the rollers. The other two wheels on the ground are going to have to engage to get us unstuck. Very common off-road, but also very common in the snow in the winter. Imagine you're driving up on a snowy curb. You got wheels spinning. This simulates that test, opposite ends of the car. So once again, starting out in normal mode, as we do with all of our slip tests. We're nice and settled, into drive. Onto the accelerator, just a tiny bit of slipping before that traction control engaged and we got unstuck. But I want to try a different setting actually, because this Bronco Sport has a number of GOAT modes, and it also has a really trick twin clutch rear differential setup which can distribute wheel speed left and right. So I'm going to go into let's go ahead and pick a mode here. We've got 7 of them, and we'd be here all day if I chose all 7. But let's go into rock crawl. It's going to be the most aggressive setting, and let's see what happens. So in the rock crawl mode, it's going to engage the four-wheel drive lock, and it's also going to engage the rear differential locker. And we're going to see if we notice a difference on the standard diagonal slip test. Off the brake, still in reverse. Off the brake, onto the accelerator. Okay, well, you can see very impressive. So regardless of the normal mode or that off-road mode, Bronco Sport performed beautifully and got us unstuck. All right, so now for the first 3-wheel slip test. So far, the Bronco Sport has been performing beautifully, but this is where things start to get really tricky. So both rear wheels completely stuck, the left front completely stuck, only the right front wheel is on the ground to get us unstuck. We're going to start out in normal mode. Let's see what happens. We're settled, into drive. Onto the accelerator. Okay, well, check that out. With enough slipping, we did get unstuck. The car was really working at it, but we were able to get off. Let's go ahead and try a GOAT mode and see if that changes the result. All right, going straight into the rock crawl setting. Just like that. Backing on to the test here. All right. Into neutral, let the vehicle settle. Into drive, and a rock crawl, once again, it's going to lock up the four-wheel drive system, lock up the rear diff, but the rear wheels are stuck, so it's only that one front wheel which really matters. But in the rock crawl setting, onto the accelerator. Well, we did get a lot of sliding around. It was a lot more aggressive with the torque delivery, but we were able to get off. I want to try one more thing though while we're here. I think I was able to get off without cheating there. We'll have to review the footage, but let me try one more thing. Same test. What I like about this four-wheel drive system a lot so far is that it's very deliberate. So a lot of systems will just start flailing wheels. You got crazy wheel speed. The traction control is flailing to figure out what to do. It's just grabbing random brakes. The Bronco Sport feels like it's very intentional. Some wheel spin, brakes, sends power right where it needs to go. It's really impressive. Not quite as impressed so far as the Honda Trail Sport system. The IVTM4 is a little bit smarter, it feels like, but we're doing pretty darn well. So going into the rock crawl setting once again, but now I'm going to use trail control, which is similar to the Toyota crawl control system, where I push this little button and then let the computer do the accelerating and the traction control management. So button is engaged. I can set it here with the button on the steering wheel. Yeah, very impressive. So you could see that was not me accelerating, that was me modulating the system using the cruise control button, and it got us unstuck. So pretty impressed so far. It's doing really well, but we got one more three-wheel slip test we got to try. Okay, the final three-wheel slip test. This is where most crossovers just completely fall on their face. Let's see how the Bronco Sport does. And this is a really hard test because most of these small crossovers are front-wheel drive based. And if you get both front wheels stuck in the rollers, it has to send all of its wheel speed to the back, but specifically to one wheel in the back, in this case, the right rear. But this Bronco Sport with the Badlands all-wheel drive system should probably excel at this test. So starting out in normal mode, nothing fancy on, no lockers, no all-wheel drive locks, nothing like that. Let's see what happens. In the normal mode, got some wheel spin. Okay, so that was interesting. So the whole vehicle shifted to the right pretty aggressively. And I think what was happening was we were getting a lot of torque transfer to that right rear wheel, so much so that it actually forced the vehicle to the right and caused us to cheat a little bit. I'm gonna try that one more time, but that was impressive. I gotta say, that's a really aggressive rear end, and that's what makes this particular Bronco Sport so special, that twin clutch rear end, which not every model has. This Heritage Limited Edition does, the Badlands does, but essentially it's these two clutches which can grab super aggressively to spin both rear wheels at the same speed, or even overdrive one, and cause the vehicle to do stuff like that, where it can force its way off of really difficult obstacles because it has so much control over the rear wheel speed. But let's try that one more time. So these clutch-based limited slips in these modern vehicles, but specifically the one in this Bronco, is very impressive, and it doesn't get enough credit, right? People think that, oh, a locker is the way to go all the time. Well, a locker is great because you get permanent and equal wheel speed between both rear wheels. This clutch system can modulate it a little bit, and if it deems fit, it can actually lock up those clutches super tight, apply a huge amount of force to simulate a locking diff. But I think what's happening, and we'll verify this in the rear, is even in the normal mode, the computer is figuring out what's going on. It's locking up that clutch and really forcing that right rear on the ground to spin. And I actually think it's slipping on this pavement and maybe doing a little bit of a burnout. Believe it or not, that's how much wheel speed is being sent to that wheel, even in the normal setting. So I'm still in the normal setting. Okay, yeah. I think if we go actually look at the pavement, we're going to find a black mark, but it's working exactly as it should. It's really engaging that rear diff and doing some cool stuff. Let's go see. Wow, so just as I suspected, even in the normal drive mode, the computer is figuring out that this left wheel is spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, and then it's engaging the clutches on that rear diff to such an extent that it's causing this right rear wheel to slip and actually do a little bit of a burnout. And you can also see that here on the tread. It's all getting worn down there. Now, it's not a consistent engagement because we're still in the normal mode, but let's engage that rear locker on this next test and see if we can get a consistent lockup between both rear wheels. All right, last test here. Bronco is performing beautifully right now, really impressed with it. But same three-wheeled slip test, but this time we're gonna do all the goodies. Into the rock crawl mode, four-wheel drive lock engaged, so we got that relatively equal wheel speed split front and back. Rear diff lock engaged, diff lock, and yeah, let's see what happens. Into drive, onto the accelerator, turbo spooling up. So same thing, I could hear that wheel slipping, but it was a much more consistent, equal slippage that time to that rear wheel. So it definitely felt like the left and the right rear wheel were tied much closer together when you have that rear locker button pushed. We got off. Kind of a beast, guys. Let's go see how it performs in the real world. Alright guys, welcome to the Onyx Off-Road Andre's Pit Course. Onyx Off-Road is the official off-road navigation software of TFL. Great app, check them out. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Bronco Sport. So, the Heritage Edition comes in some cool colors. It comes with these white steel designed wheels that are actually aluminum. So they look like steelies, but they're actually made out of aluminum and then painted white. It's got the white roof, it's got the white grille, and then this one is the limited version. They're building 1,966 of them for 2023. 1966, the year the Bronco came out, and it's very expensive, this version. 46 grand. Now you can get the Heritage in the mid-30s, much more reasonable, but you don't get some of the really cool off-road goodies like the tires and the bash plates. This one's got recovery hooks. We got that really cool twin clutch rear differential. But what I love about the Bronco Sport is it's much more drivable every day on the road than the full-size Bronco. It's a little bit lower, easier to get in and out of. I think the interior is a little bit more usable. Lots and lots and lots of space, better fuel economy. Single range transfer case, so no high range and low range, only high range in the Bronco Sport, but we'll see how that performs out here. This limited version has the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, 250 horsepower, a lot of horsepower, over 270 pound-feet of torque. Now we're going through the pit section of, or the trenches section of Andre's pit. These are deep grooves cut into the earth at offset angles, and we're gonna get the vehicle off kilter on 2 wheels on purpose, and we're starting out in normal mode. Let's see how the all-wheel drive system reacts just in the standard normal mode. So wheels are spinning, just a little bit of gas, start lifting up tires, but I'm going to take this super slow on purpose. This is not a test of how quick I can get up trenches. It's supposed to be hard on purpose to test the limits of the system. So off kilter completely. Very, very impressive. Keep in mind, this is just in the normal mode. I haven't even engaged a goat mode, but that's kind of my big beef with the goat modes, is that these computers have gotten so smart nowadays where there's not really that much of an advantage to going to the mud and sand or the rock program. You really don't even need to use these buttons because it's all computer controlled anyways. A little bit of work up here at the top when it got steep, but I mean, it's just like walk right up it. And a lot of crossovers, even in this class, the compact crossover class, I've driven Toyotas and CRVs, and the RAV4, for example, and they have to think about that. You can feel the computer working hard to grab brakes, force wheel speed to and fro. There's a lot going on, but in the Bronco Sport, even in the normal mode, walk straight up it. And that's what I mean, you know, it doesn't have the ground clearance or the approach or departure of the full-size Bronco, but this car is more comfortable to drive every single day. It's much more like driving a car than a truck, and it will go up places you wouldn't believe. It will get you to the cool campsites. So these things are really underrated. I'm not sure I'd pay 46 for this one, even though I do like the brown leather, and this Yellowstone color is very cool. Anyway, let's go into the rock crawl. We're gonna go to the crazy mode. That's gonna engage the 4-wheel drive lock. That's gonna equal the wheel speed split front to back. It's gonna engage the rear diff lock too, and we'll see if that makes a noticeable difference. But even in the normal mode, it was such an easy process. I just think that in this mode, we're gonna have slightly less slippage of the tires. So once again, off kilter. Yeah, you can see with that rear diff engaged, jeez, that's pretty impressive. You know, people don't like these clutch-based systems because they like, oh, that's not a true locker. But for most people, you know, it's a set it and forget it system. I mean, and the amount of torque being applied to those clutches right now to keep them locked up will blow your mind. So there, it's sinking a little bit harder than a typical locker might, but even still, I mean, that's 2 miles an hour up here. So steep, something's rolling around in the trunk there. That's impressive. What a great little vehicle. It really is amazing where a unibody independent suspension on all 4-corner crossover will go. Even in the normal mode, even without touching any buttons. Now, I can't wait. I'd love to test the base Bronco without this trick all-wheel drive system and the little 3-cylinder to see how that does. If one of you guys out there has one you'd like to loan me for the day, send me an email, info@tflcar.com. We'd love to run it through this test, but this top spec model, it's pretty ace. I'm pretty blown away with this system, and I think for the vast majority of people, this is a much better car than a big Bronco. It's more efficient, it's got a great usable interior, and it's super good, as we proved, in just the normal mode. Drive it and forget about it. No need to futz with 4 high, 4 low, that kind of thing. The big downside on this one, this is the Heritage Limited, the price over $46,000. That's a big price to pay. Now in a future video, I'd like to test the more affordable Bronco without that crazy trick rear diff and see how that performs. So be sure to stay tuned for that. As always, this has been Tommy behind the camera. Cole, we'll see you in the next video.